Hi there booktube, Aaron here, hope you're doing okay. Today I'm going to be doing a tag for Tag Tuesday. It's another race against time to see if I can get the video up while it's still Tuesday here. And today I'm going to do the body tag. It's a new tag by Brandon from Brandon's bookshelf. And it's his second original tag. It's following the philosophy of reading tag, but this tag is much more open and there's much more interpretation there from prompt to prompt. And it's been bouncing around a bit on booktube. I've seen that Greg from Another Bibliophile Reads has done it as well. And he echoed what Brandon said in his original video, that if you're watching it and you want to do the tag, then you can consider yourself tagged. So there's a nice big open tag there, although at the end I might tag a few people in particular, just to give them maybe a bit of a prompt, and just because it'll be interesting to see what they think about this tag. But let's get into it. So prompt number one, our first body part, the brain, which sort of signifies the intellect. So yeah, think about a book that, I don't know, sums all of that up. That was pretty hard. Maybe if I read more psychology or even philosophy, I'd have, maybe a slightly better answer. But I thought I'd think about this a little more broadly, not just about intellect and intelligence and kind of not just being, just knowing stuff and being erudite, but as well an element of imagination and of possibility, and all of that as well, and sort of conveying that kind of openness of possibility. And so for me, no surprises that I'm bringing this author up. I bring him up all the time. Is Jorge Luis Borges, and his fictions. And I think in the best of his stories in here, there's this really open feeling. This just there's so much possibility in these stories, and also just this sense that how could his mind hold all of that, and then he conveys it in so few pages. It's really, really great. Moving on to number two, and this is the mouth, or the voice here. So for this, my number two and my number three could be very easily swapped around, but this is how I'm going with it. So my book for the mouth and the voice would be the selected poems of Anna Akhmatova. So she was a Russian poet. She lived before, during and after the Russian Revolution, and sort of lived through Stalinism. And she has a way of just conveying, which is kind of why I was putting her down here for the voice. Whether she's conveying a kind of longing for something that she wants, celebrating something that she has, and just being honest about it, about being honest about stuff that she doesn't want, I suppose, as well. And then later on, as she's living through Stalinism, the fact that she's still writing and still has things to say, even if she's not really able to say it publicly, or even for a long time, even keep it written down. I thought I'd just share you a little bit. This isn't really even one of her poems per se. It's sort of the just a little prose paragraph at the beginning of one of her poems called Requiem, and it's just setting up the context for the poem as she and loads of other people are queuing up in the lines just outside of a prison, and she's there to see her son, and this is an encounter that happens while she's there. In the fearful years of the Yeats of Terror, I spent 17 months in prison queues in Leningrad. One day somebody identified me. Beside me, in the queue, there was a woman with blue lips. She had, of course, never heard of me, but she suddenly came out of that trance so common to all of us and whispered in my ear. Everybody spoke in whispers there. Can you describe this? And I said, yes, I can. And then something like the shadow of a smile crossed what had once been her face. So yeah, for the mouth, I've got Anna Akhmatova and her selected poems. To number 3 is the heart or feeling. She could very well have been feeling for me as well. But for this, I thought I'd go with Percy Bysshe Shelley, and particularly his poem To a Skylark. And actually this as well, well, a lot of Shelley's poetry could also be the voice as well. I think he doesn't just say something, he proclaims it. But you know, just this line here in To a Skylark, or this stanza: keen as are the arrows of that silver sphere, whose intense lamp narrows in the white dawn clear, until we hardly see, we feel that it is there. And if you just read that whole poem, it's really hard to not feel yourself, I don't know, something inside you just kind of rising with the poem as he's describing it. It's a really remarkable poem. So my number 3 there for the heart and feeling is To a Skylark by Percy Bysshe Shelley. Number 4 is the arm or strength. And again, well, it's a bit stereotypical one here. I think it's I wanted to do something a little different for this, but was finding it hard to find something that just hit the spot for me. So I thought I'd go with Beowulf. And I suppose, you know, there's the stereotypical sort of hero and strength being displayed in that very overt way. But I think it also tackles the darker side of strength and maybe the limits to how we see a strong person, and how someone may be strong in one way and not in another. And so it's actually quite an interesting exploration of strength and sort of different elements and sort of ways of looking at it. Then on to number 5, the elbow or humour. For this, I thought I'd give you an author that I've read fairly recently, but kind of just sums up the weird, kind of absurd humour that I love. So we've got Nikolai Gogol, and I've just got his selected stories here. And the Earth Will Sit on the Moon, which is from his Diary of a Madman. But you know, stories like The Nose and The Overcoat are just kind of ridiculous, but definitely my sense of humour. You know, over the top, really weird and surreal, if sometimes a little dark. Then on to number 6, the stomach, so food. And at the moment I'm joining in a little read aloud of this. It's Dracula by Bram Stoker. And, you know, there's the obvious thing of, you know, someone who sucks blood. But also just for the first section with Jonathan Harker's diary, he seems quite interested in telling us what food he's been eating, and he's scribbling down. Oh, I must note down this, or ask about this recipe to so Mina can know it and we can have it when I'm back home. Yeah, they sound really, really nice. And I can remember the first time I read Dracula, that was one of the kind of first things I took away from it was, wow, that food he's having over there sounds really good. Moving on then to the groin or romance, thought I'd go a little different. Again, it's a bit absurd, and it could go for the humour. It could very well go for the intellect as well. I thought I'd go with Italo Calvino and one of his Cosmocomics, just the first one, which is one of my favourites, called The Distance of the Moon. And I think I don't love all of the Cosmocomics in this, but the stories in here that work the best are ones where he just really hits the nail on the head with desire, and yeah, you can feel it, even though the characters and the situations are totally absurd. He just I don't know, manages to capture a sense of desire in a really relatable way, and so yeah, for the groin, for romance in a way, I've got Italo Calvino. Then number 8, the hands or work. This is a book I've just finished just yesterday, actually, as I'm filming, and that's Jude the Obscure by Thomas Hardy. This isn't just because the main character Jude is just working this series of really hard sort of labour intensive jobs all the way through, but I think it's a book that really gets you thinking about what you choose to do, and it gets you examining the reasons behind what you do, why you do it. And so again, it's not just about work itself, but about choices and just the things we do and accomplish in life. Okay, on to number 9, the legs and fitness. This is one of the hardest ones for me, and I was kind of trying my best not to go with choices that weren't too obvious, or books that weren't too famous. There've already been some exceptions here, and I didn't want to make too many more, but I just had to make one more exception because this was so hard to find a book in my collection that I'd read that kind of fitted in with fitness here. But I thought I'd go with The Old Man and the Sea by Hemingway. I suppose with it being a story about a man pushing himself to the limits, and it's also a story about failure. And in Brandon's video, he was talking about how I think it was Brandon who was talking about how we learn from failure, and maybe we do need to be we need to kind of reconcile ourselves to the fact that we do fail, and then we need to learn from that. So I thought I'd go with The Old Man and the Sea there. And then finishing up, the last one there is The Foot and Travel. And for this, I was going to go with Coleridge and some of his poems, because he's got some great hill walking poems and his conversation poems. But instead, I thought I'd go with one that's a little more centred on travel and on this kind of restlessness, and not as well known. So it's Stowaway, a Levantine Adventure by Richard Gwyn. So just a little poetry collection, but it's very entertaining and perplexing, and really gets that restlessness there. And again, like a couple of the other poets here, I thought I'd just give you a little taste, and this is the opening poem to the collection. It's called Reckless Travel. Reckless Travel. Some journeys he undertook with the certainty of eventual arrival. Others, by contrast, he embarked upon with little or no intention of ever reaching any destination. The term adopted for this by his imaginary biographers, who accompanied him everywhere, was reckless travel. He became adept at such peregrination, of which the essential aspect was never paying for a ticket. And that kind of quite laconic but also slightly sardonic voice kind of accompanies you as you're following this character as he not only travels through this sort of area of the world, through the Levant, but also kind of through time. He jumps between periods, seemingly without aging or realising it. I'm still scratching my head a bit about it, but it's really entertaining. So there we go. That's my number 10, and that brings this tag to the end. And then just before I go, I'll tag a few people. I'll reiterate or kind of echo what's already been said, that if you're watching this and you want to do this tag, then feel free to do it. Consider yourself tagged. But I will just tag a few people in particular. So I'll tag Jason from the channel of A Disappointed Man. He said the other day that he was asking if I was going to tag him in anything else in the near future, just to save him from having to sort of search through booktube and get down into the dregs of other tags going around to find something to do. So I'll tag you in this, Jason, and I'll also tag I'll tag Anne Novella as well, and Kristen from Enter the Book, and just so he doesn't say that no one's been tagging him, I'll tag Steve Donahue as well. So there we go. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.